In the late hours of the night at Dr. Starline's respiratory, Dr. Starline logged into his computer after inputting his password. The computer accepted the password and required the secondary voice imprint. He quietly said, "A beacon in the sea of ignorance." His computer accepted the voice print. It then read, "Welcome, Dr. Starline." With his hair tough and 5 golden stars on the screen, Dr. Starline whispered, "Reduce the volume, replayed the last development journal." No sooner than his command was granted, the screen revealed Dr. Starline himself, giving a progress log. He then said, "Progress log update. Things are moving along swimmingly. The rabble I have railed on to have caused my performance beyond exception." The platypus rubbed onto the quad-core before presenting it to the video. "I now have a surplus of power cores as means in aid in finalizing my long-term plans, so it's enabled to me to fabricate my newest creation, the quad core." He then lifts off his gloved hand to showcase his prized possession. "This brilliant bulb will allow me to hold against Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, or Lavinia should need to arise, and unlike the single use of the core gear I have crafted for my teammates, the quad core can be utilized in rapid successions hundreds of times. The second phase of the plan will occur tomorrow, and when the sun rises, we will be invading an EggNet hub, and there I will erase Egg-based Sigma from Dr. Eggman's databases and change all security to obey me. Once the base is safety and lost to the Doctor and under my control, I can finally move on to my true goal." Dr. Starline stopped for a moment or two before his expression changed to confident to depressed. "The parameters say shift," he said. "Egget is innocent for her own good. I may have been considering making her my right-hand assistant, but I would have to look after her at the same time. She's such a good kid." As soon as he began to smile menacingly, "While Egget will be spared, the rest will not be so lucky. Once the new headquarters is secured, my new robots will eliminate the skunk brothers and mimic the octopus. No witnesses, no loose ends. I feel a tad wasteful, but the alternative is too risky. They are far too dangerous to let them roam free." When the video concluded, a small voice can be heard clearly. "Dr. Starline?" He turned around to see Agate, who had just woken up. "Agate, my dear," Dr. Starline said. "What a surprise. What are you doing up at this time of night?" "I was about to get a drink of water from the kitchen," Agate explained. "But I heard you talking, so I—" She stopped mid-sentence when she discovered that her friend had suction cups on his hands. It didn't take long for her to realize that he was talking to a shapeshift himself. "Mimic?" Agate asked. "What are you doing here?" He shapeshifted back to his octopus self before hushing her. "Keep your voice down, kid," he said. "I don't want to wake up the real deal." He pointed at the real Dr. Starline, who was at this time sound asleep in his bed. "You want to know something?" Mimic asked. "After a long day of gathering power cores from the factory, I was beginning to like you a little bit. Your platypus friend, on the other hand, I had never trusted him. However, I try my very best not to make a move without a good intel." He then turned to the computer before explaining the situation further. "You see, young lady," Mimic began, "it says here that he's determined to have no misfires. Maybe he just wants the mission to be perfect," Egghead said. "We mustn't let him down." "That's not the point," Mimic said. "While he is considering making you his little helper, he wants to dispose of me and the skunk brothers." The octopus took out his dagger from his jet black cloak and said, "I was beginning to like Dr. Starling as much as you, but after hearing his ultimate plan," he turned to the sleeping platypus before continuing, "he will be the one who isn't going to wake up from his beauty sleep." "Mimic, no!" Agate cried, grabbing onto one of his arms to prevent him from hurting her friend. "Let go, you little brat!" Mimic snarled. He attempted to shake the little girl off from her grip, but to no avail. "I am not wanting him for pulling out a wild card," Mimic said. "I am ending this tonight." "No!" Agate demanded. "We still need him to access the EggNet. He needs to take control of Daddy's base. He won't be happy until he gets what he wants." She then began to beg the octopus to reconsider his decision. "Please don't do it, Mimic," she pleaded. We still need him. Spare him, please. Staying silent, Mimic turned to the sleeping octopus, who at that time turned over to his other side, facing the both of them, and the girl, before turning back to the girl this time, was trying to be brave. Very well, he said, putting his dagger away. Your platypus friend is spared. Sighing in relief, Egghead said, Oh, thank you, Mimic, thank you. But, Mimic interrupted, if you tell anyone, including Dr. Starline, what I am planning to do, I will not only bring your platypus friend down, but I will also bring your daddy, Dearest, down. Too. The fear of losing her friend and father were bad enough. Mimic's menacing expression was enough to frighten her. Do I make myself clear? He asked. Fearing what would happen, Egghead nodded her head and said, Yes, sir. I won't tell anyone, I promise. With everything settled, Mimic's demeanor changed from menacing to friendly. That's a good girl, he said. Patting the little girl's head, he began to yawn before saying, I'm going back to bed, and I think you should too. Nighty-night, Egghead. As he was walking away, Mimic turned around to the doctor's daughter one more time. Remember this, my dear, he said. This is our little secret. He then slowly began to slip into the darkness, all while saying, Our little itsy-bitsy teeny-tiny secret. Mimic chuckled slowly before completely disappearing in the dark, leaving Egghead concerned, unsure of what she should do. She wanted to tell her friend of what the shape-shifting octopus was capable of, but at the same time she didn't want to put her father on the line. As she was thinking about what to do without Mimic getting in the way, Dr. Starline opened his eyes to see his friend awake in the room. Egghead, he asked, getting her attention instantly. What are you doing up, my dear? Oh, well, Egghead began to explain. Not wanting to make her friend either worried or mad, she lied by saying, I just had a nightmare. Feeling a wave of sympathy for Egghead, Dr. Starline said, I'm so sorry to hear that. Would you like to sleep with me for the rest of the night? Egghead immediately nodded her head and said, I'd love to. Thank you, Dr. Starline. Thank you kindly. She got onto his bed and hugged him. He hugged her in return before rubbing her auburn hair to pull her to sleep. Sweet dreams, my future assistant, Dr. Starline whispered before falling asleep himself. The next day at the Power Core factory, Dr. Eggman and his robot minions, Orbot and Cubot, were investigating the premises. Orbot floated his way to the doctor's showcase small evidence. Here's the report, boss, he said. It isn't pretty. He handed a small paper computer device to Eggman, who began to examine it. What's this report? He asked, skeptically. It's all we have on file, boss, Orbot explained. But it seems pretty clear that Sonic is to blame. Dr. Eggman looked at his minion with a frustrated expression. Here's the missing database, and the security footage isn't complete, Eggman said. Why is that? Perhaps isn't it to cover his tracks, Orbit guessed. And would you like to explain why he mocked me with his own surveillance camera? Eggman asked. Or perhaps was it Tails that was trying to cover up for him? Orbot guessed that the doctor was not fooled in any way, shape, or form, saying, Miles Prower wouldn't be so sloppy if he was very precise when covering up Sonic's tracks. Dr. Eggman began to formulate who could be behind the invasion. Whoever is up to something that involves the power cores, they are going to pay dearly. He was soon interrupted by Cubot, who quickly floated over towards his boss with another small device. Hey boss, he called out. You are not going to believe what I just found. What is it, Cubot? Eggman asked, impatiently. Take a look, Cubot said, handing over the device. Give me that, Eggman snapped, snatching it away from the yellow robot's hands. He examined the small map that consisted of an ancient castle that had its mind of his own. During the examination, he saw a symbol, which appeared to be similar to Sonic's head, indicating that he arrived at the castle. So Sonic arrived at Hang Castle, Eggman said. I can see to get to him to get one piece of my mind. He turned to Orbot and said, Orbot, you and Cubot clean up this mess. I will be going on my own to confront that stubborn little pincushion. Very well, boss, Orbot said. And when you're done, please keep searching for Egghead, Eggman demanded. We will not rest until she is safe in my arms once again. No sooner than he gave the commands to his robot minions, the doctor jumped into his Eggmobile and began to make his way to the Hang Castle. He had a bone to pick with the blue hedgehog, if he were dare to find him.